Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast, your one-stop shop for daily Miami Heat content. My name is Amir. Before I get started on today's episode, just want to thank everybody for supporting the channel. I'm pushing to 2,000 subscribers, and I'm less than 100 subscribers away. So if you guys do enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So for today's episode, I want to talk about Jimmy Butler, and not going to really focus on the trade rumors and speculation or him being out with that illness. I want to focus on a different topic. And so, with Jimmy Butler and his tenure with the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler has been nothing short of phenomenal for this team. He's been the heart and soul of this Miami Heat team, giving us iconic playoff performances, carrying the team when it mattered the most. And he's embodied Heat culture better than anyone has since Dwayne Wade. And the question that I have that keeps lingering, and we brought this up in live episodes in the past, but has the Miami Heat failed Jimmy Butler? That is my question for the Heat fans, because it's been rough with Jimmy Butler not having the help and the support from the front office. And has the Miami Heat failed Jimmy Butler by not building a better championship contending roster around him? Let's dive into that for today's episode. So, when Jimmy Butler joined the Miami Heat back in 2019, he brought a competitive edge that redefined the franchise. And no one had the expectation that Jimmy was going to do what he did during his tenure with this Miami Heat team when we first traded for him. And in just his first season alone, he led the Miami Heat to the NBA Finals in the bubble in Orlando, outperforming teams with stacked superstars. And Jimmy averaged a near triple double in the finals and had a legendary 40-point triple double in game 3 against the Los Angeles Lakers with a prime LeBron and a prime AD. And it was huge. Like, it was amazing to witness that, but we weren't able to win, unfortunately, which would have been so epic if we won a championship in his first season, also during the pandemic, during COVID, and in a bubble. But it's okay. Because that Lakers championship to me is still an asterisk. It wouldn't have been if Miami won, but for the Lakers, since I hate them, I don't count that as a championship because it wasn't real. But anyway, since that run, it's been a frustrating pattern for this Miami Heat team. There's been highs, there's been lows, and despite the heroics from Jimmy Butler, the Heat haven't capitalized on his prime years with the kind of roster that he truly needed and deserved to have around him. So let's be honest, the Miami Heat have consistently lacked another superstar next to Jimmy. Bam Adebayo, great player, franchise cornerstone for this Miami Heat moving forward. He's 27 years old now, but he's an all-star and elite defender. There's no doubt about that. And the question here, though, is Bam a true second option? Possibly, but option, but as an offensive option, is he a true second offensive option type of star for a championship team? And the stats and I believe the eye test say not quite, especially offensively, not as an all around two-way player. So since 2020, the Miami Heat have failed to land a reliable scoring option and star who could ease the burden on Jimmy Butler, because Bam could not do that. And Tyler Hero could not do that because of injuries and because of the fit and because of his role within the system in the offense. But either way, he didn't have the right folks around him. They missed out on Kevin Durant, as we all know. We missed out on Donovan Mitchell. The one that hurt the most was Damian Lillard. And we haven't recovered since that. And each season, we hear the rumors, but the Miami Heat front office seems hesitant to part ways with assets like Tyler Hero or draft capital or promising young players. The other issue is we don't have a lot of draft capital, and some teams out there didn't value Tyler Hero. He's playing like an all-star now, but his value is going up and increasing, but teams apparently didn't want him. And also, I think Miami wasn't truly trying to shop him either. They had that whole quote about we're not going to trade him unless it's for a top 75 player. They had that in Damian Lillard, but we weren't able to do that. And Miami's been great on the other side, with their ability to develop undrafted players. We know that. That's part of our culture. It's incredible. It's what makes Miami Heat culture special. It makes Eric Spoelstra special, and why he's considered a top coach, because he can make chicken salad from chicken shit, or whatever the quote is that people say. But when you're relying on undrafted players like Gabe Vincent in the past, Max Struess, Caleb Martin, and other players that we've developed in the system to play significant roles in the playoffs, like, that's not enough. And they're role players and also undrafted guys for a reason. And so, sure, they've stepped up on occasion in the playoffs. They've had some good games, but can they consistently go toe to toe with teams featuring multiple all NBA talents, all stars, and veteran type players? The answer has been no so far. Meanwhile, other teams that we faced, like the Milwaukee Bucks, who got Drew Holiday and ultimately won a championship against the Suns a few years ago, made that type of move. The Boston Celtics, who also got Drew Holiday and won a championship, but they've also added Porzingis. The Denver Nuggets have surrounded Jokic with players like Aaron Gordon and KCP and others that have been well rounded and proven veterans or complementary all stars, which helped them win championships. Jimmy has had to do more with less, and it's exhausting to watch him carry the Miami Heat team year after year. The other issue is with the front office, with their asset management in the past, and also Pat Riley and the Miami Heat deserve credit for building a competitive culture, but their unwillingness or inability to pull the trigger on major trades has clearly cost them. They've held on to bad contracts. Hello, Duncan Robinson, while others have made more aggressive moves for improving the roster. So every season, it feels like deja vu. Jimmy Butler carries this team, and in the playoffs specifically, and the Miami Heat, this team is not good enough in the regular season to avoid the play in. So they have a harder route to the finals. And the Miami Heat just falls short. And then the front office promises big moves that don't materialize. And it's almost if the front office is content with being competitive, which is good, but it doesn't seem like they're ever ready or all in for a championship during this Jimmy Butler build. So, how much time do we have left with the Jimmy Butler build? No time. Jimmy Butler is 35 years old. He's still playing at a very high level, but let's be real. His prime is not going to last forever. Father Time always wins. And how many more seasons can he put this team on his back? Probably none. I think the window is closing, or it's closed at this point, and we're now dealing with the Jimmy Butler trade rumors and speculation, and the noise is heating up. And Pat Riley did say we're not going to trade Jimmy Butler this season, even though Jimmy was quoted to say, I guess, he prefers to be traded before the trade deadline because of all these issues with the Miami Heat that he's been dealing with this offseason and the past seasons. And so, if that's the case, like, what are we doing here? The Heat have to take one last stab to improve this roster before the trade deadline if we're truly not going to trade Jimmy Butler. Like, otherwise, what the hell's the point of keeping Jimmy Butler on this roster? You might as well just trade him if he prefers that. If he actually prefers that, and we're not going to make a significant move by the trade deadline to have one last opportunity to see if we're somehow healthy and available, and Tyler Hero has made that leap, Bam is not, that's an issue there. But what are we doing here if we want to keep Jimmy Butler and not trade him if we're not going to make the moves now? Because nothing's going to happen next year. He's getting older. Yes, we have some expiring contracts with Duncan, with Terry Rozier and whatnot, but like, who's going to be available for a trade next year? He's going to be a year older. Got to strike while the iron's hot. That's now. But none of that makes sense. And it probably makes more sense, like I said, to trade him now before the trade deadline to get more value out of him and focus on that soft rebuild around Bam, Tyler, Jaime, and whoever else it may be, and whatever assets you might be able to get. Is it a Kuminga? Is it a Jabari Smith? Is it a whoever with one of these younger up and coming teams that have the assets? So anyway, Jimmy Butler deserves better. We all know that. He's given everything for this Miami Heat franchise. He's put his heart into this, his hustle. He's given us those iconic moments. That 56-point game against the Bucks is one of the greatest games I've ever watched in my life. And what was that? Like top 4 or 5 scoring game of all time in the playoffs by Jimmy Butler, beating the number 1 seed Bucks. That was huge and awesome. But again, the Miami Heat have fallen short, giving him the support he needs to win a championship. That's why we're here right now with all these issues. And the question is, will they make the necessary moves before it's too late, or is Jimmy's time done with the Miami Heat? And is he going to be traded either by the deadline, or is he going to walk away as a free agent this offseason and not pick up his player option? So we'll see what happens. It's unfortunate that we haven't been able to win a championship with Jimmy. He deserves it. I love Jimmy Butler. But yeah, let me know in the comment section. Do you think the Miami Heat failed Jimmy Butler? And what moves do you think this Heat can finally do to get him a ring? Or what team can they trade him to where he can finally win a ring somewhere else?